and I'm about to prune this standard pear tree in the back. And it's about 25 feet tall, and that presents some management problems. So my goal here will be to reduce the size of this tree to make it more manageable. I'm also going to remove non-productive wood like water sprouts, which I'll show you in a minute. And also our goal here is to make the tree look nice in the landscape, because there's nothing worse than pruning a tree and having this ugly monstrosity in your yard. The first thing I want to do is start getting rid of all of this wood that's going to be in the way as I take some of these major cuts out, like this branch back behind me and some of these water sprouts. So I'm going to clear out this stuff here first, so it'll be easier to get the branches out once I'm done. And I have a number of choices, but I'm going to use this saw because it goes through them pretty quickly. Something this small I will take out with the hand pruners a little bit later. So I want to get the major things out of the way first. Watch how these guys cut through this branch over here. You want to make sure that you have it in the right way so that you can get in there really easily and snip. Now, is that good or what? I hardly made any effort at all to make that cut. When you make those large cuts, you tend to get regrowth right around where the stump is. Like this is all growth as a result of this large growth here, or this large pruning cut here. And then of course we have this one here. All of this wood has to be removed, and that's just the fact of life when you do pruning. Now I want to show you another cut where the tissue has started to callus over. Here's a cut where a major branch was removed a few years ago. This is callus tissue right here that's going to close up that wound, and you can see where I removed branches that had grown as a result of that pruning cut. So remember, you're going to get that growing back, but you can come back as those are just getting started and take them out before they become large branches. Although you can tell I'm far from finished, if you look here, it does look a lot clearer in the bottom portion of the tree. When you're making a fairly large cut on a branch like this one here, if I just cut this through this section right here, when it gets down close to the bottom, this bark can tear off. So what we try to do is make an undercut first, but the actual place that we want to make the cut is in front of this little ridge of wood, which is called the branch bark ridge right here. So I'm going to start my cut here, and the bottom of this branch is called the branch collar. And you can see kind of a natural line of wood there that gives us the ideal place to make the pruning cut from here to about here. In the past, people used to make what's called a flush cut, which went down here and made a larger wound. The tree will repair itself faster if you cut it this way. First, we want to make an undercut so that if this starts to tear, it will stop at our undercut. And it doesn't have to be that far in, not more than about a quarter of the distance. Place my saw in front of the branch bark ridge here and start to cut down to where I made my previous cut. Now you see how it just slipped off without tearing the branch? And I have just a little bit of a stub there, and that's really the way it should be. One of the things you should always do is take time to walk around the tree to get a look at what a particular tree will look like if you take out a selected branch. And I'm always trying to think about, will this look good after it's done? And you don't have to be in a hurry to do it. So I decided to take these out to help reduce the height of the tree. That's one. At this point, I'm going to start to decide on what's going to be the ultimate height of this tree. This is still 10 feet up from where I am right now, so I need to make some decisions on what I want to cut out. Okay, most of the height reduction is done in terms of the large branches that need to be removed. I will head back some of the long wispy ones up near the top, and now I'm going to go through and thin out the branches, get rid of crossing branches, branches growing straight down, and the smaller branches that are growing straight up, and we'll be pretty much finished with this tree. when you see the finished tree, some people are going to say, oh my goodness, dude, you butchered the tree, there's nothing left. Trust me, it's coming back. And there's still plenty of buds on that tree to give me plenty of pears. As you can see, I've opened the tree up quite a bit, removed a lot of the larger wood, so I'm going to work on the lower portion of the tree now. And what I plan on doing is opening up the tree by thinning out some branches, continuing to get out upward growing wood, but also branches that are hanging too low so that when I'm mowing under the tree, I don't have to duck all the time. Still have some branches that are growing straight up, so I'm going to get some of those out. Some branches that are crossing other branches, I want to get those out. And I want to do some general thinning too, because if you have too many branches, it's hard to get sprayer penetration. And just because I didn't get a branch the first time doesn't mean I won't come back and get it later. When I'm just about finished, when I make the last cuts, I go around the tree in a circular motion. And what I tend to do is thin out the branches. I like to get rid of downward growing branches like this, even though it's going to produce fruit. There's plenty of other fruit on the top and the side of the branches. And I prefer to have my flowers going out toward the side, simply because they get better light exposure. But so I'm going to take care of some of these. And this one growing down below, there's a small branch. It'll become a larger branch later. I'll get rid of that. And then there's a lot of flowers here, and I won't need all of these, so I'll just thin out some of these. And some of them will be on the top of the branch. Sometimes I'll take out entire branches. And depending on how long these branches are, I may do some heading back of the branches. This one is below this one, so I'm going to take the lower one out because I need to go through here with a mower. And of course, the lower they are, the more they're going to hang when you have heavy fruit on them. And then I may trim this back a little bit. I don't have to, but I may. I'll still take out. Now I have a branch above, a lower branch right here. See this one right here? Then I have to decide, do I need both? Most of the time you don't. One's going to shade the other. So I would prefer to take out the lower one, although this one is the healthier branch. But I'm still going to take out the lower one because it'll hang lower when the fruit is hanging on the tree. That's about the limit of what I can do with the pruners. And if I want to thin out some more of these flower clusters, I could take out one of these branches, but for now I'll just leave it. And I'll go along a whole branch on the tree all the way to the trunk, and then I'll go to the next group, and then I'll go all the way around the tree. You may have noticed that the tree in back of me is now in bloom. It's been the weekend and we've had fairly warm weather, and I didn't get some pruning done during that time. I had other activities. So I finished it off today, and then up near the top I trimmed some of the branches back so that it was a little thinner at the top and more narrow, and then widening out as we went down. And the reason we do that is so that the tree can get plenty of sunlight at every level. If you look at a mature tree, what tends to happen is you get an umbrella shape at the top of the tree because most of the sunlight is hitting the tree from that direction, from on high, if you will. And the lower branches become more shaded, and because of the shading they don't produce flower buds, and eventually they will die out. So what we try to do when we thin the tree out is to have it in a shape where it's thinner at the top and a little bit wider at the bottom. It doesn't have to be significant, just enough so that the lower branches can get plenty of sunlight. And that will allow you to have flower bud development, and if you get flower bud development you'll have fruit lower on the tree, which is preferable to having it way up high in the tree. So that's basically what we've done. It took about 4 hours to do this tree. I wasn't in a hurry, but it did take some time. And the tree looks like I butchered it. Basically, I've removed quite a bit of the wood out of this tree in order to be able to manage it. But there's still many flower buds there, and the potential for getting pears is still very great. Now I will get a lot of regrowth, and during the summer months I'll give you a look at some of that, and then we'll trim some of that off early so that we don't have such a major job to do next year. But after the leaves come out, this tree is going to look just fine, and I'll show it to you a little bit later.